Haha. All right, we're going to do it this way. Good morning, everybody. It is Sunday. That is the regularly timed stream time. So welcome. We are here. I have slightly cleaned my studio, so it is not a chaotic mess of all the well, there's still distracting things in the background, but that's okay. I'm going to go get the chat ready. Yeehaw. I see Twyla. We have Kinsey. Hi, Kinsey. Amanda, good morning. Twyla, good morning. I read that like the Kool-Aid man. Oh, yeah. Amy, good morning. So today I do have some peeks for stuff that's going to be in the sale, which is exciting. And we have a special guest, which I have not announced yet. We will show that particular guest off shortly, but we'll let a couple people come in first. I'm going to queue up some of the links. Yeah, so it's been an exciting week. There's been tons going on. My husband's switching from days to nights, and I'm on like half nights. My normal state is like nocturnal. So to be operating on normal construction hours, which is most of our life, it's wake up at like 7 o'clock or earlier. He wakes up at 4, which is way too early for me. Get up at 7-ish and then continue on to the day, go to bed at like 9 or 10, which is really early for how my body normally wants to work. Being the artistic night owl that I am, I'd prefer to do the night thing. So now that he's on nights, I'm kind of on like half nights, which means I get to wake up kind of whenever I want, usually 10 or 11 o'clock. And then I feel like a high schooler again. And then go until 2 or 3 in the morning, which is actually super productive for me. So that's really kind of fun. It's kind of neat to see that that's still a possibility, even though I'm still dragging my butt a bit. I've had like 4 of my Delagota coffees today because we need to keep the juices going. But yeah, I figured I'd do the stream a little bit later just because I was going to be just waking up and it would have been worse. I couldn't have coffee enough to support myself. We have Krista. Good morning, Krista. Brenda. Good morning. I think Brenda was going to Spruce Meadows this weekend. How's that going? Are you here like streaming this from Spruce Meadows? Karen. Good morning, Karen. Good afternoon. Feels like morning. Okay, fine. It's kind of a Sunday morning stream, so my brain is not calibrated, and it's kind of morning for me a little bit. So, hi. Good day. Let's see. Took me years to get used to the switch, but mine is on the opposite time. Yeah. Andrea, good morning. Construction hours are blah. Brenda said, we just went to Spruce yesterday. Cool. I was gonna go, and then I went and played with my pony instead because he needed love and attention, and he was the best boy. Amanda, don't miss changing back and forth from days to nights and nights to days. It's really hard on the system. My husband's struggling a little bit with it, but he's kind of the push through and get her done type. But yeah, I got crap tons done the other night, and I got to actually do some fun art, which almost never happens because there's so much other stuff to do. You can see I've got some time payment taters that are going out over the next week. We have some biters that are in the works. I think there's 8 on the table there, which is exciting. That is pretty much all that's left. Ta-da! All the ponies. They just take freaking forever. But they're almost done. So close. Then I've got some things I'll show you, and I've got some things I'll show you. La la. All right. Let's do. I have like notes in my notebook. I wanted to show you guys quickly before I announce our special guest. The club has not opened for new members yet because I have not done the thing I need to do before I open it up for new members. But that'll be coming soon. I'm still trying to redo that page, and every time I redo it, it either looks really crappy on desktop or it looks really crappy on mobile, and there's no in between. I forgot to show you guys the certificate for Ruffles. So this is one of the ponies that will be in the September sale. So it is a venti reversed mirrored version, but rat tail appy scruffiness. That will be our one release. So Ruffles, like Ruffles, the potato chips. It says potato chips are my love language because potatoes. And then Noki's card is kind of the same, scruffy appy love. And it's the nice, I really like Moo's cards. And then Noki is actually right behind me. I have a test cast to show you guys. So Noki. And I'm getting pricing and pages ready, so that will be coming very, very soon. Soon. But isn't it cute? Look how small he is. And the castings are turning out really nice. We had our Jordan, who's been helping with casting and cleaning. He got the overview of all the pressure casting stuff because he's never done it before, but he's doing it well so far. And they have little feeties. Feeties are fun. You can see the little feet details. But they're coming out pretty clean, which means minimal prep, which is kind of what I always aim for since I know preppers are hard to find. But, like, not quite full head, but close. All right. Isn't he cute? His, like, nose is just ripe for booping. Look at that nose. Come on. The camera's like, I don't think so. There's paint in the background. Come on, camera. Very cute. He's going to be a lot of fun to paint up. And because he's small, all the colors, which will be fun. I'm quite enjoying, actually, the little guys. I've been doing some painting and stuff kind of as we go, and it's very, very nice. I quite enjoy taking a break from the need to do things. We've got Pam, good morning. Kim, good morning, afternoon. You guys are messing with me now. Karen says I should share your pony pics. Yes, I did take a picture from bareback. We just went for a bareback jaunt, so I had him in a halter and snapped I got a lead rope that has snaps on either end so you can use it as reins. We just puttered around and he was like, I'm going to eat all the hay. I was like, no, you can't eat the hay right off the pails. It's not good. So yeah, I was like, I could go watch other people play with their ponies or I could go play with my pony. So I went and played with my pony. It's been a while. Charlotte. Hi, Charlotte. How's it going? From Virginia. It's a long way away from where I am in Canada. Let's see. We have Haley. Hola, Haley. Laura Rocksmith. Hello. Kinsey saying, oh, it's my size. Amanda, hi. Molly, good morning. Cool. Dale. Hi, Dylan. All right. So I guess touching on that, I'll show you peeks of other stuff that's going to be in the sale in a little bit, but I'm quite happy with the castings. I've had people ask before how this is going to work, and it's going to be, the sale will be the start of what I have available. So this will be available in batches. So I'm going to have some that will be available during the sale in September and then kind of batches after that. So if you don't have that weekend of the 21st and 22nd free and you're like, oh my God, am I going to totally miss out? You're not. You can come find more ponies later. I'm still trying to offer them in ready to ship so that I don't get myself into challenges. Not that anything will ever be as challenging as that thing, but you know how it goes. So many taters. All right. So on that note, I think my special guest is still ready. So you guys might have heard of her. Actually, about 2 years ago, almost to the day, she was here for a sculpting workshop. I'm just pulling up some stuff. And perfect. Very, very cool human being. Lived so many different lives. She's such an interesting person. Like, if you ever get the opportunity, ask her about her life and what all the lives she's lived and all the cool stuff she's done, because I am very, very, very inspired by this particular person, because she's just, there's places she's been, things she's done. It's so cool. She's also like ADHD artsy like I am. Our brains are squirrels, so it should be extra fun. All right, without further ado, welcome to Bobby, Horse Tender Studios.
Hi.
Cool.
I'm like sitting here watching your stream like it's just a regular Sunday. I'm watching. Oh God, I'm on it.
You're like, I just got punted out on the screen. What is this?
Oh no. Chaos has entered the chat.
Chaos has entered the chat. So, do you want to tell us a
started.
little bit about yourself for those of you, or those of the people in the background
I
watching us?
don't know. With your intro, I'm sitting here like, I'm not that interesting.
And you've been to very cool places and done some very cool things.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I don't know how much time we got. I'm Bobby. Born in Colorado originally, but I've lived everywhere to include Japan.
So cool.
Been like a weird world traveler, which I never thought would happen in my life. I remember when I was younger, I was like, I don't need to travel the world. This country is huge and there's so many pretty things. And now I've been like all over the place. But yeah. Love horses, of course. Been in the hobby, model horse hobby, I guess since I was about 8 or so. My mom actually gave me her old Briars. She had like the old family Arabians and Fighting Stallion and whatever, and they were pretty beat up because she and her friends used to like bash them together and like make them fight. She was like, yeah, we had like the Fighting Stallions and we would like make them fight over the mares. We'd bash them into each other. I'm like, cool. Their hooves were like rounded off, you know,
Yeah.
and like
Testament to their build quality, eh? If you
right? Yeah, they weren't broken.
Together.
Nobody broke. They were just they were tough. So started out making tack out of like yarn and duct tape. And yeah, kind of just went from there. Discovered photo showing and live showing and painting and yeah.
Yeah, because your current roster is you do tack and props and painting, a little bit of sculpting, like all the things.
I've managed to hold back from getting into dolls. That's like my one thing. Like every once in a while, I'm like, ooh, I could convert these Barbie kids. No. And yeah, I used to have like some Barbie dolls and Barbie clothes and random things where I was like, dolls. So far I've been like, no.
No, you can't
no. But yeah, I do customizing, finish work, drastic customs are like one of my favorite things. I love taking a horse and just chopping it up beyond recognition. And then even with that being said, I see some of the things that other people do and I'm like, that's crazy.
The hobby itself is kind of crazy.
Well, no, I mean, in the best way.
Yeah.
But like, some people I've seen, like Darren comes to mind. You know how she'll just completely chop them into like pieces and then like put them back together. Like I never have done that. My goal was always and then like interchanging body parts. Like my goal was always like I'm going to use this horse and I'm going to try really hard not to like break it apart and I'm going to like put it into a pose, you know. So I would do crazy things like I take a standing horse and make it running and then take a running horse and make it standing and it's like what's wrong with me?
Like this would be so much easier to just do from scratch. Why must I torture myself?
Yeah, and I still haven't. And you mentioned the sculpting workshop and I've got a special guest here.
Yay!
But I'm ashamed to admit I have not touched him since then. He's here and he's very dusty and hairy.
You got to tell everybody his name.
His name is Honk. My vision was an Arabian doing the like, what is that giant nostril thing? And he was originally going to be just standing, like locked, like what? And then I wanted a little more action on him. So this is what I did at Rayvin's sculpting workshop 2 years ago, almost to the day. And he has been sitting neglected ever since. I'm afraid.
Can be a little bit intimidating when you're working just from clay, and it's like.
But he's here, and he's still got the swishy tail that you did, and I know you did like half of his face because I was just like I don't even know what to do. So this is not my work. This is Rayvin. Of course, made it easy. She just grabs a tool and she's like, just push here and here, and there's an eye, and I'm like, holy crap.
Can you tell how many eyes I've sculpted?
Yeah, no, that was proof in like the seeing. Yeah, you've done this.
so fun. One, it was so neat to see what everybody picked because we weren't all doing the same breeds.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of got to pick whatever they wanted, which is really nice. And there's a lot of differences between something like a big drafter versus a little pony versus a thinner skinned Arab or a thoroughbred.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun to see how everybody interprets things, and everybody has their own style. Even if we were all sculpting from the same reference photo, then
Yeah.
you're not going to necessarily end up with the same thing. It's all going to have different flavor to it. So.
And I have no idea. Even after that workshop, I'm still super intimidated by the concept of just creating something from nothing. I still would so much rather grab a briar and just hack it to pieces, and I don't understand that. But it's like some sort of hang up, like
yeah. It's the guardrails of
I'm not qualified.
Yeah. I need the little like training wheels. It's okay.
I need an adultier adult.
Yeah, an adultier adult.
Well, one of the recent projects that I started was for the first time ever. I took 2 briars and chopped them up, and I'm gonna like interchange the pieces.
Yes.
Which to a lot of people, they're like, yeah, I do that every day. But I'm like, no, this is my first time. I'm scared. So I took these 2 classics, and this one I'm also using Darren's like toilet paper roll. We're a bit long in the body right now, but
it's a wiener dog horse.
I sent her like this picture, and I'm like, wow, it's a perfect fit. And she said, it looks like a gun. It's like
that's awesome.
Toilet paper horse butt gun. I don't even know.
Are you swapping the front and the back half, or are you just making the back longer?
No, these are different bodies. And I decided I wanted to do like a trotting horse, and instead of moving legs around like I normally would do, I'm like, let me find another horse that has legs that are kind of where I want them. So I got to cut this down and like, stretch it. But this is kind of what I'm going for. Like, wee.
That's cool.
And then with the other pieces, I'm like putting them together, and I'm like, maybe we'll do like a strung out, just running. Wee. So, I don't know. I have too many projects.
I don't know if you guys can see all the projects, but this bin, where is it? Right here, the green bin. This is all clay projects. You guys saw that when you were here for, I can't direction. And then that's the bin of abandoned souls. So it's just a whole bunch of random things that didn't quite get
just have a bin? That's so cute. No.
Oh yeah. And then the whole shelf.
Yeah, no, I'm totally just messing with you. I'm just like, I am not going to show anyone my whole studio right now. This is all you get to see. Like,
you're like, I cleaned this corridor.
Yes.
The rest of it,
I have this big vision of like, yes, I want my studio to be a space where I can invite people over and we can collaborate and do magical things. And then I look off camera and I'm like,
the amount of cleaning and crazy organization I had to do before you guys came for the workshop was nuts. And like all the shelving that is all around my studio was all new.
Yeah.
To put like things in places. And now I'm like, I don't even have any shelves left. What the happened?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, like last weekend, they had a really cool event here called the Art Crawl, and it was like down a local highway. They had a bunch of sites set up with local artists, just painting and pottery and blacksmithing, and it was wild. And so I went to check it out, and I managed to bump into this lady, and we talked and really hit it off. And we've both done like reenacting, and we both do archery and all these different things. And she was like, we were both like, we should hang out. And I'm like, yeah. And I was like telling her, yeah, I got this like big studio. And she's like, cool. And I'm just like, I don't want anyone to see it right now. I gotta go home and start cleaning.
I think if artists are organized and clean, it takes away from your ability to do the things. Maybe.
Well, and I told her that, and she's like, studios are supposed to be messy, and I'm like, yeah, it's like I've gotten brave a couple times and shared like pictures of like the chaos that's behind here, and a couple of my friends who may or may not be like enablers were like, it looks like a place where a lot of cool stuff gets made, and I'm like, we'll stick with that.
Yeah, the chaos and disorder. You have to tell everybody about your experience in Japan with archery, because I think
so. I was interested in archery like my whole life. When I was a kid, I used to just grab tree branches and try a string and be like, it's a bow, but I never actually tried archery till I did a mounted archery clinic in South Dakota. And it was like Plains Indian style, they called it. And so that's initially how I learned from someone who did competitions and all that. And then when I ended up going over to Japan, there was a little part of me that was like, man, it would be really cool to learn their style of mounted archery. You know, like the samurai style or whatever. And I was like, I don't even know, like, is that a thing that like foreigners can do? Like maybe it's like a cultural, like protected thing. And so I didn't go over there with any expectations. I was like, I'm just going to see what happens. And yeah, actually they absolutely love it when people like foreigners or Westerners or whatever you want to say show interest in their culture and want to do things. And so it took, I was there for 4 years, and it took a couple of years to like find a club and like get brave and try. Like I stumbled across another American who was doing it, and so she was able to get involved. And then there was a Japanese woman that I became friends with who was kind of like our translator. And you know, the language barrier, unfortunately, I wish I could have learned a lot more while I was there. But I did get into the Yabusame, and I did that for about 2 years. And I was in a couple of competitions, and it was just amazing. It was super cool.
It's pretty neat. Like when I first kind of met you, you joined the Medallion Club, and I was shipping boxes to Japan, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. This box is going to Japan. I got so excited. You have no idea. And then finally meeting you in person when you came to the workshop, it's like, this is so cool. And then now that I've started to learn more about you, like you're reenacting, and now you're in a rock band. Like,
yeah, I don't even know, man. I don't even know. I'm just here.
You're here doing all like, and I think as someone who also has like scatterbrain tendencies, I can totally appreciate all the different things that you do. Like you have crazy, awesome breeds of chickens, and you do all the cool tack, and you have your laser to make all your props and all the cool stuff, and you've been playing with that. Like there's so many different things, and my brain appreciates all of the things.
Yeah. And it is super fun. Like sometimes I'm just like, man, you know, if I would focus on something, you know, maybe I could get further with that thing. But on the other hand, it's like just so much fun to do everything. And then there's a lot of like crossover, you know, like the laser, like you said, I do model horse stuff with it. I've actually started, for our band, we've started having merch. And so like our last couple shows, we've had like a merch table, and like I'll show you here with the laser. I was like, well, I really want to use the laser and start making merch. So I started making these leather patches, and then we got hats.
Nice.
That I don't know if that comes through.
It's reversed. So if you want to tell people the name of the band.
The band is called Thieves of Harmony. And we've got a Facebook page and a YouTube channel where we've started uploading videos of some of our shows, which are really hard for me to watch because I don't like hearing myself sing on a video. And I'm like, oh, I sound weird. And, you know. But yeah, and we've also started live streaming our practices. Like a few weeks ago, we did a practice, like jam session, and we're like, we should just stream this. Like, who knows, you know? And yeah, so it's just fun. I mean, I've loved music all my life, and I never thought I would be like in a band or whatever. And yeah, never thought I'd go to Japan. Never thought I'd do like a lot of this stuff. And I'm just like, hey, cool.
Surprise! For those of you that don't know what it is, that's a picture of someone doing Yabusame. So pretty freaking epic, if you ask me.
What's cool about it is just like a number of years ago, I had never ridden a horse with like no hands. And it was like the cool, like for me, I mean, I've been around horses all my life, and I've had my horse for like over 20 years now, like half of my life, I realized. And but I've never, just other than goofing around, walking around or whatever, I'd never like taken my hands off the wheel, so to speak. And I would like watch videos of people galloping with no hands, and I'm just like, man, that's so cool. And it wasn't until I got into archery, and then like I would have moments where I'm like, I just rode at a full gallop with no hands, like shooting a bow, you know. But it's like
a little crazy.
You're so focused on the archery part of it and the bow and all that, then you realize like, oh, I was on a galloping horse, like,
Yeah.
no hands, look, mom.
And it looks like it wouldn't exactly be the easiest thing because you've got to really, like, it's not a standard Western bow, or it'd be a little bit smaller. Like, I know mounted archery here, they have bows that would be different than you'd see somebody shooting in a range necessarily, but this is quite a different setup, it looks like.
Yeah, I have the bow that I started with, the Plains tribal bow or whatever, is like it comes up to my waist. Like if I stand it on the ground, it comes up to my waist, and so I call it like my short bow.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a Yabusame bow or Yumi, and they are like 7 feet tall. And they're asymmetrical, so the lower your grip, like this part is shorter than the top.
Okay.
And it's funny because when I learned the Plains style, you hold the bow at an angle, and that's kind of your rest. That's where your arrow sits, like on your hand and the bow. And I was riding one of these Japanese horses at a run, and I'm holding this 7-foot bow at an angle. And they're like, no, straight up and down. They want it straight up and down. And I'm like, and they started saying that I was holding it gangsta style. And they would be like, no gangsta, no gangsta. And I'm like, all right.
Because that's like the gun sideways.
Like the sideways.
That's
and I'm like, no, I'm not trying to be gangsta. That's like how I had to kind of unlearn, like, but the Yabusame and I feel like a lot of the things that the Japanese people do are they're very focused on like the art of it. And like the process of knocking the arrow and drawing the bow is like a 10-step process. And it's all very precise and practiced, and they want you to be beautiful. And like one of my friends who was doing it, and a little bit of a beginner, but she'd been doing it a little bit longer than me, they told her at one point they said, you're a little bit beautiful. And she's like,
just a little.
She's like, I'm gonna take that as a compliment. They said I was a little bit beautiful.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, and if you look at like their tea ceremonies and everything, it's very like artfully done. Everything has a purpose and a meaning, and it's just their culture is so fantastic. I've got like this much Japanese in me.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing I wish is just that, you know, the language barrier. I could tell that the woman that I learned from, she is incredible, and I could tell that she had a lot more she wanted to teach me, and it was just hard to make that, you know, like dig into it. Because me, I get like, I'm sure you can understand, I get like obsessive about things. Like I want to like just dig into this. And, like, you know,
not like a surface level.
Yeah.
Like, this is cool. You're like, I want to know the roots of this and all the different, like,
this is my obsession right now. I need to know everything.
Hyperfixation. It is a magical tool. It is also very hard to deal with sometimes.
Well, I remember when I left Japan in 2019, and I was just devastated because I never wanted to leave. And I still, to this day, sometimes I just like, I can't think about it, or I'll just start crying. I'm like, I just miss it so much. And there was just something about it that like my spirit was just like, this is where I want to be. And so it was very hard to leave. But what helped was my Yabusame teacher told me, I want you to take this to the United States. And she's like, I want you to take Yabusame to the United States and teach it and share it. And I was like, well, that's a lot to ask for a beginner. Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
At that point, you've been doing it for what, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, just a couple years, like a year and a half. And I had done like 2 competitions. I did improve. Like my first competition was just, I can't even remember if I hit a target. I was just like, wee. But the second competition, I did a little better. I can't tell you, like I didn't like win anything or whatever, but I was improving, and then it was time to go. And so I kind of clung on to that when I left, and she had actually told me, you know, if you set up a clinic or lessons or something, she offered to fly over and help like teach this. And I was just so, I hung on to that when I left Japan. Like, all right, I'm going to take this with me and you know, But that was late 2019, and we all know what happened the next year. So I was like, yeah, next year, 2020 is going to be my year. I'm going to teach archery, and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. So I kind of feel like I lost the momentum. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they're like, it's hard to get the momentum back. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to.
Is it something that you might contemplate in the future? Because that would be pretty cool.
Definitely. Yeah. And I've even like in the last few years or so talking about like destination model horse shows or whatever. I'm like, how crazy would it be?
Fly everybody to Japan?
No. Well, I mean, sure, let's go. No, I was like, what if I did? Because there was, who was it? I swear somebody was talking about doing like a destination model horse show that was also, or maybe it did happen, also had some sort of educational component to it. And I'm like, so what if I did some sort of model horse show get together with like a mounted archery?
That would be freaking amazing.
You know, instead of like a trail ride or a, you know, visiting a stable, let's go shoot arrows off horses.
Yeah, and even the people that don't want to participate, just to watch that would be super cool, because it's not even like your traditional mounted archery that you see in the West. This is like a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
So cool.
So yeah, it's definitely still on the very busy radar. There's a lot of things on the radar.
The 5 million things you want to do, and then the like 3 things you can maybe think about doing in a day, and the half a thing you can actually get done.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I think you're pretty cool. People in the chat are saying that they want to see our studios despite the messes. And let's see, Kinsey's saying she wants to do drastic customs but doesn't have the patience or the nerve to cut up Fireheart. I do have a YouTube video, and I know Darren cuts her pieces, her horses into pieces and then reassembles them. Mm-hmm. And I used to do that, and then now I've gotten in the habit of trying to work a little smarter rather than harder. Depending on what I'm doing. Some things you can't not cut up, but figuring out a way to cut things so that pieces are more movable, especially with briar plastic, because you can heat it and it's malleable. So you can move like a mouth or a leg or whatever you're doing. And there is a YouTube tutorial I put up on my YouTube channel that shows kind of how I planned that and how I moved things. And I took the little Burl walking halflinger mare, cut her up and made her laying down. So there's that if you wanted to check that out, Kinsey. But I can help you too, just message. Katie's saying Facebook just glitched out. There's a hot pink poodle in front of the stream. It's the CIA. They're punking us. We're not allowed to talk about Japan.
Look at this poodle.
I don't know what that means. Somebody's comment came up as paired. Julie's. I don't know what that means. She says learning to shoot a bow is bad enough without the bouncing around added. Yeah, how do you steady yourself so that you can get a shot?
I'm having flashbacks. No, so there's a, like, you can practice it on the ground, and I should do this because honestly I haven't done this in a long time. But there's a way that you can practice on the ground, and it's like you stand with your feet wide enough, like pretend you're on a horse, and then you kind of like do a squat, and then you kind of like stick your butt out, and then you straighten up your chest, and you just hold that, and you shoot your bow. And it is so hard. Like I remember joking that like I was like, holy crap, I need to go home and just do squats in front of the TV for like hours, you know, to hold that position. But that's kind of how they would practice. And it was one of those things that stable kind of floating platform was one of the things that I had moments where I felt it. And it was just super cool. It was like, oh, I'm doing it. And then like, you know, I'd fall out of it or something. But the people that were good at it, there's this one younger girl, a young woman now, who was just up and coming. She was winning everything. I think she's still winning everything. But I remember calling her like the girl who floats. because you would see her horse go by like at a full gallop, hair, fringe, everything flying, and if you watched like her head, she wasn't moving.
That's so
And
cool.
it was the coolest thing. She really demonstrated what they're going for, and it showed with her shooting. She was just winning everything.
Yeah.
So, but it is definitely a challenge. Yeah.
Katie's asking if it's like a 2-point kind of pose, like you're standing.
Yeah, kind of. I remember I asked about that, or the American girl that I was there with asked about it, and they said it was similar. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the only way I could see that you'd be able to not have as much movement, especially if the horse is galloping, is you're braced in the saddle a little bit. Well, not braced, but you have your shocks and stuff. That's so cool.
Yeah, I remember it's interesting to me, like when you learn things, and I guess this is one of the reasons I'm so interested in just learning all kinds of random things, is because I feel like when you learn things, you learn other things. And if that makes any sense at all, it's like things are linked, and you're like, oh, I'm trying to learn this, but in the meantime, I learned something else. And I had some experiences like that with the Yabusame. It was really cool. Like my last competition, I was super nervous because I had all this stuff swirling around in my head. I'm like, I'm leaving Japan. This is my last chance to do this. Like, I want to do good, And I had learned about the concept of mindfulness, and I actually practiced it like at my last competition, and it worked so well. It was so cool. And so it was like these little nuggets of other random things that I've learned. I'm like, hey, let me try this thing. Oh wow, look at that. These work together. So
I get irrationally excited when stuff starts to link, and the more it starts to link, the more excited I get. And I'm like, oh my god, this does that, then that's over there. Ah!
Yeah.
I'm gonna show this comment because it made me laugh out loud. So that girl was like a chicken's head.
Yes.
The rest of their body and their head.
Can't confirm. I just did that last night with one of my chickens. I was moving a couple of my chickens around, and I was like, woo! And the head was like.
There's a couple of really good videos that go around virally every once in a while with people doing dances with the chickens and their head just stays, or the one where the kingfisher's sitting on the reed and his body's going moves, and the head is just laser focused. Yeah, that's so cool. How did you find that the mindfulness helped with what you were doing? You said that it helped you obviously perform better in the competition.
I was sitting kind of backstage, so to speak, waiting for my turn to go, and I was just super nervous. I was like, this is my last time. I want to do well. I'm sad about leaving, and it was just all these things crashing around up here. And I'm sitting there on the horse, and I've got my bow, and I've got the arrows ready and everything. And I just closed my eyes, and I took a deep breath, and I kind of exhaled, and I pictured the breath going through me, through the horse's hooves, into the ground. And it was just like this grounding thing. And then I just opened my eyes, and everything was clear, and I was just like laser focused, like ready to go. It was just bizarre. And I was like, wow, holy crap, that worked. And then I had 2 runs. And so I did that first run, and then the second time I kind of did it again. I took the deep breath, and I just, kind of pictured it as like being in the moment, and then the last run, there's 3 targets per run. And so as I'm full gallop, and I'm knocking my last arrow, and I'm like, I just, again, kind of cleared my mind, and I was like, I'm going to hit this target. And it was like time slowed down. It was like that thing you hear about, like, time slowed down. But it slowed down. And I like drew the arrow, and I lined up the target, and I shot, and it went like right in, and I wasn't even surprised. I wasn't even like, I got one. I was just like, yep. It was almost like I was just like, this is happening. And it was a really cool, weird thing. I don't know.
That's awesome. When I think
I missed the first 2, and I was just like, crap. And then I'm like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I was like, yep, I did it.
That's so cool. Well, and I find that their culture, because they're so slowed down in a lot of their practices, like you're saying, when you're performing Yabusame or the tea ceremony or anything like that, everything is so mindful, or the intent is to be mindfully done. It's like the intent of yoga. And I think a lot of people get the whole yoga thing confused too. Like there's a lot of people that do yoga and they're like, yeah, I'm moving my body. And it's like, well, there's that, and then there's the deeper concepts underneath doing yoga, which is the same thing as, it's like the, what's that book called? The Art of Mindfulness, and then, or Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Mechanics?
Yeah, motorcycle maintenance, I think.
Yeah, motorcycle maintenance. So like how there's that ability to do the mindful component or the Zen component or the, like that getting in touch with the root of all things, if you go into that spiritually fluffy place. We're going woo-woo here, guys, hold on. But like connecting with that in anything you do, like I found with even the sculpting that my stuff started to do, like get a lot better when I stopped focusing on getting it perfect, and just there's a little like weavy line or like river of flow. And when you can connect with that and let the rest go, and just focus on the clear and not all the rest of the voices and all the things that keep telling you can't do it or you're doing it shitty or whatever. It's focusing in on that little path. And like you're saying with the writing, where you can kind of like dip into it for a microsecond and you're like, yeah, and then you're like, poof. And you're like, I'm shit, this sucks.
Well, like being in that position, you know, that perfect balanced kind of floating position. There were moments where I was just like, I'm doing it, and then my legs or something would give out, and I'd be like, I'm not doing it. Like,
but it gives you the feel and the flavor so that you know that it exists, and that you can keep trying to tap into it. And I know right now seems to be a big, the mental health component and those voices and that, what do they call it? Imposter syndrome and all of this stuff. It is really big in the hobby and just the world right now. A lot of people are struggling with that. I'm not good enough, and my stuff isn't good enough. And these people are so amazing. I shouldn't even try. And it's finding those moments and that individual flow outside of this realm of competition and other people and what everybody else is doing and what your own mind is saying, that allows you to kind of find your way. Because I think if you're not focused on that, everything else is just so overwhelmingly intense. Like I know you've had struggles and I've had struggles, and it's just, it's daily. Like you're fighting your own inner voices, and then the more I'm sitting at home alone thinking about stuff, the harder it is sometimes, because then my brain goes, oh, these people don't like me, and this happened and that over there, and like I didn't do this particular thing as good as I wanted to. Or it's like hard with the Briar releases because you have a very limited amount of time to produce the sculpture, and it's like I got to do it within these realms, and I wish I could spend 2 years to perfect it, but I can't. And it's like that, and then you got to be good with just however it comes out, and then everybody sits there and critiques the crap out of it, and then it's removing yourself from that and going, it's not for everybody, and that's okay. Like it's been one of the hardest things, and I think it's hard on all of the artists in the hobby, because you don't get the grace of people being like, it seems like with artists and their resins, there's this step back of the hobbyists that are artisans, of people going, okay, well, we're going to be a little nicer to them. But as soon as you put something out commercially, it's like fair game, which is a whole different ball game, and it messes with everybody's head, I think.
Yeah, I've just been feeling that struggle big time, and I've kind of been there before with the hobby and just other creative things. But here lately, I think I told you about it. I just, I was like, you know what? I actually had a moment where I sat down, like where I'm sitting now is what I call my tack desk. Because I kind of did this thing with my studio setup where I've got different like stations. And that helps me to not have to be like, well, now I want to paint something, but I got to move all this stuff. And so I'm fortunate enough to have the space where I have like a desk here for tack, and I have a desk over there for painting and this and that. But I sat down here at my tack desk, and I had something I'd been working on, and I was going to work on it. And I just had this moment where I was like, why bother? You know? And I went to this really dark place in my mind, and I was like, there was a part of me that really was like, you know, you might be happier if you just threw all this stuff on the fire pit and got on with your life. Like I went there and I was
Yeah.
just like, huh, what would that be like? And then I was like, no, that would not be good. But I actually sat like right here and I had this discussion with myself, and I realized that a big part of it was this year I kind of officially unofficially decided that I was going to make my studio like my full-time thing, my business. And I've been kind of playing with that over the years, and I've always done limited like commissions, and I sell tech pieces and customs here and there. But I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the thing. And but as I'm sure you know, and a lot of people know, like that, it's hard. But it's just like mentally, you know, and it just, I was like, everything I make, everything I touch has to be like marketable, and if it doesn't sell, I'm a failure, and I'm gonna have to, you know, go flip burgers or something. And
Yeah.
And so I was just like, you know what, I'm just not even gonna worry about that anymore. I'm gonna just make what I want to make, and which I've kind of done all along, but there has been that thing in the back of my mind, like, I have to sell this. This has to sell. And when it doesn't, then I'm like, you know. And so, yeah, I'm kind of going into this new phase where I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to do what I want to do. And if people want to buy it, cool. If not, I'm just going to keep making stuff. Because I need to. I have so many ideas, and I remember visiting a sculptor years and years ago who told me that she had so many horses screaming to get out. And I think about that a lot. I think about what she told me that a lot, and I'm like, yeah, I have so many horses and tack projects and things up here, just like, let us out. And I want to. I want to do it. So on that note, the project that I was going to work on, that I was like, I can't, and then I was like, I'm going to do what I want, is this thing, which I finished recently. And cool. So what this is this is fabric from Japan, wow. That I made like a drape for. And I've been calling it like this weird hybrid thing. So it's like an Arabian presentation, but with like Japanese flavor, I guess.
That's cool.
So I did the like fringe on the face, and yeah.
Wow.
The fabric, the ribbon, the thread, everything is actually from Japan, because I stocked up like a crazy hoarder while I was over there. I was like, they just had so many cool fabrics and ribbons and threads and tiny things, you know, really into like miniatures and small things. And so I came back with like a boatload of things, and I'm like, I'm just gonna start using all this stuff.
Well, and it's got a different flavor to it when you bring it from another country, and it has that, there's like I don't even know the word for it. It's like a deep feeling to it. Like there's more to it than just, oh, I picked this up at the store and I'm making this thing. Like you can use the whole principle of like alchemy and transmute that into something really cool, but it's even more interesting when you can take something from another country with the history that you had in Japan and everything you did there, and use that to kind of transmute it into something cool. Like my favorite author, Brandon Sanderson, he was doing his regular podcast. He does like a weekly update thing, and he was talking about how, as an artist himself, because he's a writer, right? He was saying, I have X amount of years and I have all of these ideas in my head. And he's like, if I don't take these things and make them real, they're gone. Which is a terrifying thought, like for me or anybody. Like you're thinking about the whole idea of mortality and how everything ends. And it's like, I didn't even think about all these horses in my head and all these ideas, that it's like, if I stop, A, they're going to terrorize me and kick holes in the walls, which is my brain. And B, it's like, there's other people that get meaning and appreciation and excitement and joy out of what I do. And that's true for everybody, right? We make things and other people find something that either connects to us through
Yeah.
that piece or through that piece to something else in their life, and it holds great meaning for them. Like there's so much magic in that, and it's something that I think for me kind of brings me back to why I even am in the hobby in general, because sometimes it's just shitty. Like there's negativity and there's bullying and there's
Yeah.
gatekeeping and there's all this BS. And
Yeah.
it's hard to connect to like, why am I even here? Why do I put up with this? Why don't I just toss it all in the fire pit, light it on fire? Like what for you made that decision where it's like, I'm not going to throw it all in the fire pit. Like why do you keep doing what you do?
Yeah, I feel like I'm on this, personal development healing journey or whatever you want to call it after just some crap going on in my life for a while, but so I'm kind of like riding the waves and I'm kind of analyzing these feelings and I'm like, all right, and what that was for me is kind of like exactly what you're saying. Like I have so many ideas and I have things that I want to do or need to do, not in a bad like need to do, but like you said, they're just they're stampeding around in here screaming at me. And it's interesting that you bring up the mortality thing, because that's another thing that's been creeping into my mind. And it's like I've got all these ideas and all these great things, and it's like life is short and it's getting shorter. And like I've kind of been joking about being in the angry stage of grief lately, because I've gone from being like upset about things and sitting here going like, oh no, and just being like, you know what, screw it, screw those people, I'm gonna freaking do this, and y'all can like it or not, like shove it. And it's it's kind of funny, but kind of like, and I was like, I just sat here and I just felt this kind of like wave of defiance. I'm like, no, I'm gonna make this weird Japanese Arabian horse thing.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll be fun. And on that note, something that I've had for years now, and I've been very afraid of, because I've told myself that once I put paint on this, I will devalue it.
Oh my goodness.
And like the very day or next day that I was like, I started prepping this guy.
Yes. Juggernaut.
Because I've had him from like the beginning. I think I was one of the ones in the medallion club that got drawn for one. And so I got him in the beginning, and I got him and I'm like, yeah. And then I had picked a color out for him, and then one of the other, big professional artists did that color, and I was like, oh. And then I was like, well, what about this? And then someone else did that color, and I was like, oh. And I just was like, and I kind of put him aside. And then I thought of a color for him, and I was like, ah. And then I started seeing the prices that he was going for unpainted, and I'm like, if I put any paint on this horse, he's going to be worth less. And so he's just been around here taunting me for like years. And I've had a color picked out, like a color that I'm just like, this is what I'm doing. I don't care if anyone else does it. This is what I'm doing. And I have like a horse, one of my horse reference books, I put little Post-it flags with like colors I'm interested in. And there's this huge index card sticking out that says Juggernaut, like on the color that I want. Yeah. And I just, when I managed to kind of flip that switch from like just being, I don't even know, going from being sad, depressed, to just being kind of defiant and like, I'm just going to do what I want. I just grabbed him and I was like, all right, dude, let's go. The
defeat to the rise.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're winning. And then you're just feeling beaten down and everybody's doing their thing. And you're like, it's not even worth it. I don't even like this hobby that much. Then you're like, no, I'm here to stay, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm just, I kind of decided to do a bit of a shift in the hobby in a weird way. I was like, I'm just going to kind of drift out to the fringes, so to speak. And I'm not going to try to be It's weird because like right after I said this, I was like, I'm just not gonna try to be involved. I'm just gonna be out here doing my own thing. And then you were just like, hey, you want to be on the stream? All right, yeah, let's go.
It's funny how the universe works too, and I think it has a feeling of that once you let go, then everything starts to click and align, right?
Yeah, it's almost like when you stop trying, things happen. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. It's like that little hopping into that flow because you're not focused on all when you're not like, oh, these people's opinion and that person said this and this person did this and like, do I even belong? And like all those thoughts that go through your head or like, I'm going to devalue this by painting it, which spoiler alert, all of us have been there. I've ripped a head off a Sharif and I was like, I don't know if I can put this back together, but I guess I don't have a choice now.
Yeah.
And then you get people in the hobby that are like, oh, you devalued it, you wrecked it. And it's like, you know what? It's a plastic horse at the end of the day. And when I get all worried about all the like minutia of it, if you're painting it, you can strip it. If you've cut it apart, it's a little harder to fix.
A little harder to put it back.
But then you admit everybody else is more valuable. So yay for everybody else. But
well, it's funny because I've done the Namo Paymo, the monthly challenge thing. I've managed to do, and there's been a couple of dicey years, but I've managed to do like every year. Like I've got an unbroken streak, and there's a few that I've cried about, but my and there's a few that I might go back and like actually, you know, but I'm like I've used it as an excuse to just force myself to taint something. Because I have the biggest hang up with painting. And it's a weird internal thing, but like I can make tack and do even weird things with tack and props pretty fearlessly. But the painting for me, I get really hung up on and really stuck in that imposter thing.
Why do you think that is?
I know it's because I was actually in the hobby a long time ago and I was painting and customizing and I was doing really well. I was doing commissions and I was like winning championships at live shows. And then life just imploded in a really horrible way. And the hobby was being kind of super toxic at that point, which maybe is always a thing. I don't know.
This isn't new.
And I left.
Yeah.
I just left. I was like, my life was falling apart and people were being nasty in the hobby. And I felt like I was right there. I was right on the edge of being, you know, an artiste. But I just couldn't, you know, I couldn't do it all. I was like, you know, this is something I'm supposed to be enjoying in the art and all that. And so I just left. I just disappeared. And for years, I tried to fill that hole and that screaming pony thing in my brain with other crafts. And I started doing like jewelry and scrapbooks and greeting cards and dream catchers and all kinds of random things. But I never stopped thinking about the horses. And I realized there's a quote that's like, never give up on something you can't go a day without thinking about. And for me, that's model horses, like specifically model horses. I mean, I love horses, all horses real, whatever in general. But like when if I'm out driving down the road and I see a really cool horse on the side of the road, I'm like, oh, I want to paint one like that. I'm not like, I want to have that in my backyard. I want to own that horse. Yeah. And it's been like that my whole life. Like whenever I see a cool horse or a cool piece of tack or a cool like costume or something, I'm like, I want to make that in miniature. Yeah. And it's just every day it's there. And so I finally kind of came back to the hobby, but when I came back, I was just blown away and continually blown away by how like good everything was. And I was like, I'm never gonna like catch up, you know? And I told myself that, and I've kicked myself so many times for quitting, you know, oh, well, if you hadn't quit and if you had all those years of practice up to now, you could be there. And yeah, so it's a mental thing. It's a mental thing. And I know that. And so it's really, really hard for me to sit down and paint a horse. Yeah. It's a lot easier for me to sit down and make tack. Because around that same era is when I was making tack out of like yarn and duct tape and, you know, so it's easy for me to see the improvement in my tack. Like, oh, now I'm using leather lace and tiny chain and Rio Rondo hardware, and it's easy for me to see like my tack has grown in leaps and bounds. And so yeah, I don't know. That's why I kind of use Enamel Paymo to like force myself to paint a horse. And also every year I paint a resin. That's like the deal that I made myself. You have to paint a resin because it took me a long time. It took me a long time to put paint on a resin. I'm like, I'm just going to trash this thing as soon as I touch it. And so, yeah, I'm like, every year I have to paint a resin for Enamel Paymo. And every year I look at Juggernaut and I'm like, he's not a 1 month horse.
Yeah, maybe not, depending on the pattern. And
it's kind of demanding more than a month for me. So I'll go ahead and say, exclusive reveal. I'm going to do like a chestnut, Overo, kind of like Hidalgo-ish color on him.
Very cool.
Because that's been like a dream color for a horse all my life. And yeah. So
that's awesome.
That's actually what I was looking for when I went to a paint horse ranch 20 plus years ago and I picked out a black colt. I was like, I'm going to go look at the full crop on this paint ranch because I want a Hidalgo.
Yeah.
And I was like, that black one's kind of cool.
That's hilarious. I don't think we end up with the horses that we would ideally necessarily have picked. They kind of pick us.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. We have people in the chat saying that they kind of resonate with what we're talking about with the hobby stuff and the juju being hard and that imposter syndrome being like intense. There's people getting very excited about the Juggy and telling you just to paint the things.
Paint it right now.
And if he's starting to talk to you and let you know what he thinks he should be, then yes, our models do talk to us and you should paint him. Paint him on what you feel. Paint all the ponies.
Well, what's interesting also is right around the time where I had that moment where I was like, all right, I'm ready to start working on him. He told me his name too.
Oh.
So he has a name, and it is a very, in my angry thing that I'm going into right now, I've been listening to some angry, like, heavy metal, and he's going to be named after a very angry, like, heavy metal song that I actually can really relate to.
Like Rammstein level?
No, so the band is called Falling in Reverse.
Okay, I've heard of them.
And I actually just recently heard of them like a few weeks or maybe a month ago. And they're my musical obsession right now. It's just like, that's all I'm listening to.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
They've got some really, really cool songs. And their new album, I guess, just came out. And wow. I can relate to like so much of what's on their new album. There's so much about like mental health and struggles and just the world is horrible and just screw you guys. That's the G-rated version.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so I was just rocking out to their music and just kind of finding that place in myself to just care less. And then his name just popped out.
Are you gonna reveal the name, or are you gonna make us wait?
Okay. Exclusives for you for Rayvin's stream, since she sculpted him. I've told you his color, which was kind of like a secret. His name is Popular Monster.
Popular Monster?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like that. That's interesting.
And it's the title track for the new album. And the song itself is a very dark, in-your-face song about just not being okay and wanting to be okay and like being afraid of death and just everything. Mm-hmm. It's like a lot of stuff we've been talking about here. Listening to that song, and I'm just like, wow. Yeah. And I look at Juggy and I'm like, yep.
Well, and he was born of my like fight with cancer and going through all that. So there's a lot of that in him already. And I've seen a lot of people that have connected with that. And it sounds like it's kind of doing the same for you, which is the coolest thing. Like to be able to have this horse made of fight and you're like, yeah, fuck you guys. I mean,
Yeah, that's what he's like. Honestly, that is exactly. Fuck you guys. That's exactly what he's become
And
to
it's
me.
like this stream just gets punted off of both YouTube and Facebook simultaneously.
F-bombs away. Bye, everybody.
I said it in Canadian, so they didn't hear it.
No, but I mean it's so cool because that's what he's become to me. Because now when I look at him, instead of being like, "Ooh, I'm afraid," I'm just like, "Yeah," you know.
Well, and I think completing him and kind of seeing your vision come into life, I think is going to be like that icing on the cake for that emotion and that, like, okay, I'm doing it. Like I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and for me, I think another thing that I've always been hung up on with him is like, I'm like, if I'm going to be a working artist, I need to sell my work. So he needs to be marketable. I need to be able to sell him. So I need to do a really good job. And I'm like, but nobody's going to buy him because nobody knows who I am. And, you know, this whole thing. And now it's like, no, he's for me. He's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is become like we're going to go to war together.
Now he needs a battle outfit. He'd be cool in armor. He's
my battle buddy. Like,
yeah, that's awesome. It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, and my brain just got distracted by a thought. It's gone. I was reading comments in the chat and then I am now distracted. Yeah, battle buddy. I like that. He needs armor or some kind of battle outfit where he's like kicking all the butt. Because they used to teach the military horses. That's where all the hot ecole, the high school, came from.
Yeah, all the airs above ground were battle maneuvers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and I remember reading about that when I was a kid, and I'm like, that is so cool.
mm-hmm.
We're gonna teach a horse to kick people.
Double barrel flying leap and just like
Gabriel in the face.
That's so cool. Yeah. So Kinsey's saying it took her about a year to start painting medallions because she was too scared, thought she would mess them up. But now that I'm painting them, I love them, and it gives me way more joy. Life is crazy. We all go through it. Take a step back, breathing and getting through it one day at a time is best. When in the best way we can. Oh gosh, I hear you guys so much right now. Trying to find my feet after 5 years, says Allison. Yeah, that song is badass. I like that name. I'm gonna have to go listen to it after we're done here.
Yeah, it's the Falling in Reverse. Like I said, I admit I'm a brand new fan. Like I've mentioned them. Some people are like, yeah, I love them, and I'm like, I'm a brand new fan. Disclaimer. Like I didn't even know about them until like a month ago, and it was just completely random. And now I've just gone down the rabbit hole, and it's a whole thing. Their videos are insane. Like the music videos are like movies, like special effects and werewolves and shootouts, and it's just it's an experience. It's like wow. Intense. And every time I watch, because I've watched the videos for the new album like several times, every time I watch it I see something else. And he Ronnie Radke, the kind of like the guy who is the whole thing or most of the thing, he I guess he writes the songs and he comes up with the ideas for the videos and this vision or whatever, and he puts in like little Easter eggs, which is just hilarious because he'll talk about in the video, he'll have clips of things that fans or people have done to him, and he'll address that in a weird way, like in the background, you know, and it's just wild. It's a whole thing. I'm here for it.
That's awesome. And I find music is really helpful for kind of guiding me through different states and emotions. Because there'll be times where I want to feel certain things and I'm like, okay, now is the time for this kind of music. And then now is the time for this kind of music. And like the fluff them music is over here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's almost like things, and I've kind of been aware of this concept before, and I'm not, I don't know what I believe as far as spiritual, that type of stuff, but I feel like things come to you when you need them, if that makes sense. And so it's like I'm sitting here and I'm considering putting all these things that mean to me into the fire pit, just lighting them on fire, and right around that same time I'm like, no. And then I find this music, and it's just like, in your face, like, and I'm like, yeah, this is what I needed right now.
Lit a fire in your soul instead of in a pit in your backyard.
Exactly. So nice. Yeah, I'm very appreciative for that. And there's been other times in my life, like you said, music, where just certain things I'm listening to, and it's like it'll come across my radar, and then I realize, like, this is what I need right now to guide me through what's going on. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
We have people in the chat asking for a link for your band.
So it's Thieves of Harmony. We've got a Facebook page, we've got a YouTube channel. Let me see.
I found your Facebook page. Don't forget that.
That's probably the best one. Yeah.
Huh? Katie said, music makes me stare off into space. I listen to tornado-related topics for whatever reason, and it helps me focus. Whatever works.
Yeah.
I've been listening to, like, weird pen stuff for months. And I actually found a new book. It's not new as in new to the world, but it's new as in new to me. There's a lady named Mercedes Lackey.
Okay.
And so this is the second book in the series, and it's all about horses, and they're called companions in this. And so there's these people that are heralds, and they end up with these companions that are joined to them that they have like a telepathic connection to, and then some of them have gifts that they can heal, or they can be bards, or they can do all sorts of interesting things. And it's kind of fluffy in a good way, like in that morals and good people and like the bullies don't win kind of thing, which is kind of nice. I'm like jiving with it. It's kind of fun. And it's got ponies, and she obviously knows kind of what she's talking about, because it's not like sometimes you get horse books that are really inaccurate, but it seems to work pretty good. Anything with like the morally people being good people fighting against the bad ones is kind of, I enjoy it. So.
Well, for me, like the hobby, you were asking me what, made me not throw things in the fire pit, and I talked about a little bit of it, but as I'm navigating down this new path of like simultaneously like F you guys, and then also like just I try to keep things into perspective, like the cool things that have happened. Like in Japan, I met another American who was she's a professional photographer, and she travels the world taking pictures of wildlife and things like that. And we kind of hit it off with the shared love of horses and all that. And she talked about having like a couple Bryars when she was younger. And when we both got back to the States, she sent me a box like out of the blue, and it was her favorite childhood Bryar. And she said, I feel like you would give him a good home. And I think she was kind of like, I know that sometimes you like repaint them and chop them up. Like, don't do that with him. I won't. Yeah. But she said she got him because he was really reminded her of her horse that she had when she was younger. And I actually have him right here, and it's
Huck.
It's the regular Huck, and I never had a Huck. And she sent me, she's like, this is my favorite childhood Bryar. I think you'll give him a good home. And I was like, I definitely will. He broke the peg off in he was still in the box and everything, but his stand was broken off, so I still have to fix that. But I went to spend some time with her last summer. Every year she goes to the Tetons, and she takes pictures and stays there for about a week, and she leads like photography group tours and stuff. But anyway, I took him with me, and I had him like in a pony pouch, and I'm like, someone wants to say hi to you, and I pulled him out, and she took him from me and like hugged him. And I'm like, that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm in the hobby, because there are people that this means, a lot to them. So, and one of my plans with him, I told her, is I want to make him like a costume and some presentation stuff. And she was like, that would be so cool, And then of course I have Chewy, who has traveled the world with me.
Yeah. I squeezed so hard when you were taking pictures of him in Japan. I'm like, oh my God.
Little chewy man.
Cute. And he came to visit when you were doing the workshop too.
Yeah,
All around Canada.
He goes everywhere with me. I don't think I ever posted it, but at Briarfest this year, I took pictures of him on the carpet in the chin. I was like, we have to add this to your travel log, so I like put him on the crazy carpet.
I love how we have these famous models in the hobby that just kind of do the things like the earless Eddie and Bloaty and Chewy, and it's like it's so fun. I don't know. There's the hobby, and I keep said this, I don't even know how many times, but the hobby has this weird, like, what do they call those? Venn diagrams? Is it where all the circles are? Yeah. And it's like there's this weird mixture of all of these crazy things to learn about horses, all of these crazy things to learn how to do and make and replicate, and like there's just so many different interlinking hobbies. And I think for like ADHD brains, it's really good because there's so much to it. Yeah. It's like a la carte. It's like, what would you like? All of these things. Yeah. Like you can go over here and be like, I'm going to obsess about pedigrees and like all these things. And then I'm going to go over here and do dioramas. And then I'm going to go over here and make tack. And then I'm going to go over here and learn like this. It's so much. And it's so wonderful. And
it's a blessing and a curse.
You said the doll thing at the beginning, and I had a thing come up in my Facebook that reminded me that I think it was 6 years ago that I sculpted a doll face to replace that like resting bee face of the traditional
angry Yvonne or whatever.
Yes, she's so angry. Wow,
she's also angry.
And then people like will paint teeth over top of her lips, and I'm like, or we could just make one smiling.
I know. I've thought the same thing. I've thought the same exact thing. I'm like, I should get some of those and like sculpt new heads. And I'm like, I can't. Like, I have to draw the line somewhere.
Well, and then that led me to, I'm going to look up ball jointed dolls because they're doing all these face ups and repainting of faces. I'm like, that's so cool. You could do like crazy different articulated dolls and then sculpt all these different faces. And with the heads, you can just pop the new head onto a body. So it's really, then my brain was like, you know how it goes, out into space. And I'm diving down all the rabbit holes. I'm like, it would be amazing if our dolls looked like the dolls that you can get that people do for ball jointed dolls.
Yeah.
Let's see. They call them face ups.
Okay.
I'll share my screen. So you can get really ridiculously fantastic.
Yeah.
Lifelike. Oh, it's not working. You didn't follow me when I transferred screens. There we go. But like really realistic eyes, gorgeous shading. Like you get ones that are more anime-ish, of course.
Well, like I've gone down some of the rabbit holes on Facebook Reels or whatever, where it'll show people who do that kind of thing with like Barbies or like the Bratz dolls or whatever, where they take off like all the crazy makeup and then they like repaint them or whatever to look like more realistic, and they just look so cool.
I know.
Yeah, it's like every once in a while I hear the siren song of like, you should try this, and I'm like, no.
What? This is Pinterest. What? No, I don't want to create a password. Go away. Let me see the thing. No. No. It's not letting me do it. Fuck. Pardon my French. Okay, fine. Open a new tab. Nope. Open image in new tab. There we go. Ha. Okay. Bam.
Wow.
Like you can get really crazy, realistic, awesome stuff. And I'm waiting for somebody, and it can't be me, to do that crossover where they're like, oh, now I'm going to do these things. And then our dolls are going to like have a renaissance and be insane. And there's just,
somebody needs to do it. Not us, but somebody needs to do it.
Not us. We have too much on our plates already.
Well, it's like me. I used to joke that like, in my craft hoard, I years ago I used to be like, well, I don't do anything with fabric, so I don't look at fabric, I don't collect fabric. And then I started to be like, oh, but I could make like costumes. I can make things for model horses with some fabric. So maybe I'll start looking at fabric. And then I went over to Japan and they had so many fabrics that are like tiny, tiny prints, like flowers that are like just tiny, like all over something. And I'm like, I came back with like 3 lifetime supply of like fabric with tiny print, you know? And it's like, for instance,
I mean, if the apocalypse happens, you're gonna have lots of stuff that you can do.
I've made one of these. This is the second one I'm working on with the micro mini, like Chegu jingle horse thing.
That's so cool.
This is the second one that I'm working on.
It is really tiny. Oh my
goodness. And then it's just, and then here's like a stablemate size piece that I'm working on, the same thing, but like tiny flowers.
That's
so designs.
Wow.
And so I just have a crazy amount of fabric that's got tiny, tiny print that's like in scale for all the way down to micro size. And I love what you said earlier about using material from there, especially to do these traditional Japanese horse outfits and using fabric from Japan. I love it. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that because it's so cool to me. And I'm like, does anyone else think this is cool or if I'm just weird? It's just
no, I think
it's fabric. What's your problem? And I'm like, no, I'm making this Japanese thing with Japanese fabric. And it's like, I was there. And
yeah, it's got different meaning to it. Like there's different levels that I bought it on Amazon, which there's nothing wrong with, but it just has a different, there's more stuff infused into the creation when it's,
I think so for sure.
They are in the chat telling Amy to do something. Don't tempt me. Oh, go buy fabric from Japan, Amy. Do it. So you had Juggernaut you showed off and a couple of your pieces of tack, and you do props and stuff as well with your laser engraver.
I do saddle stands. Please hold.
Hold for processing.
Here's like a saddle stand.
Nice.
And these were the first prop thing that I made on the laser. And what I did is I actually found the plans to make these in full size, and I just scaled it down. And so I was like so proud of myself because that was the first time that I really did that in the software. Because when I got the laser and the software and everything, it was just like sorcery to me. And I was like, I used to just sit at the computer and cry because I'm like, I just want to draw a circle. How do I draw a circle?
And it's got to be in like CAD, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the program that I use, because you can use AutoCAD or anything with it, but the program I use is actually CorelDRAW. And CorelDRAW is a wild program because I've seen like examples they give of like photorealistic artwork that you can do with it. And I'm like, I'm just trying to draw shapes here. And there was actually a huge learning curve when I started because a lot of the tutorials for CorelDRAW were for like graphic artists and like that high level of stuff. And when I first started, I kind of had to brute force my way into learning how to do just basic like 2D vector things. So these saddle stands were like the first thing that I kind of designed, like scale down, and they're really popular. They're up in my Etsy shop pretty much all the time. I've got a bunch that are in stock. I also do like custom engraving. Like I've done a lot of them for show awards where like on the end, I'll put like the name of the show and date and, champion or anything like that.
I will pop your Etsy link in the
Etsy. Yeah, I have some stuff on Etsy, and then I also have some stuff on my website. I kind of try to list stuff in both places, but then I do have some that's on one or not the other.
Ta-da!
Yes, look at that.
I put it in the chat too.
Okay.
Well, and it's cool too because everybody's there's this big movement of people getting into barns and more diorama type stuff. So people are looking for cute little things to put in their barns and their setups. And that's just enchanting as heck to me. Because it's like the little book nooks.
Yeah.
I want to do that, but do like a little stable and put one little horse.
That is on my list of things to do because I did my stablemate stable, which have you seen that one?
Yes.
The little
You
two
showed me that.
stall.
You should show it off to everybody else.
Okay, hang on. I
We
thought I
need,
was ready. I'm not ready.
pony nooks for like little stalls with one pony in it with all little like stuff. I would buy 100 because I have lots of books.
So I will slide in here with this.
And I want one of those lasers so bad. It looks like it'd be so much fun.
So this is a little 2-stall stablemate stable. I took like the plans I had in a building sheds and stables book and I scaled them down. And I went like extra with this and I made it, the roof comes off.
You went extra? No.
I actually framed it like a real structure.
That's cool.
And so I went way out in the weeds on this. And everything is like scale 2x4s and 2x6s. And like, it's, if you scale it down to 1/32 scale, like this is all like, it's like an architectural model. And I laugh, like remembering the quote from Zoolander, like, what is this, a stable for ants? So,
well, and did you find by doing that exactly in 1/32 that some of the stablemates are not in scale at all?
Exactly. Yeah. And that is why this is stuck in product development hell, because I can't decide what size to actually make it, because the weird part of my brain that wants everything to be just right wants it to be 1/32. And I'm like, that's not going to work for like a lot of stablemates. Because like I put Django in here and like he can't even look through the door, you know? Yeah. And I'm like, so it works for like the G1s, I think. And then I think they just kind of started creeping bigger or something. I'm not sure.
The scale is a lie.
So yeah, I'm this, like I said, this and a lot of things that I'm working on are kind of stuck in what I call product development hell, because I overthink things and I'm like, all right, should I just pick some weird in between size and it is what it is, or should I just I even like thought of doing crazy things like measure every stablemate mold and create like a bell curve and like, okay.
You know what would probably work? The only person in the hobby that is like anal retentive to scale is Maggie with her micros. So you'd be able to do a micro barn. Yeah. But that's about it.
I probably could, yeah. Well, the evolution of this thing was I actually started by doing the Dutch doors. And I have Dutch doors cut out, painted, everything from traditional down to micro. And I did that as just kind of an experiment in scale. And I was going to offer them for people to order. And then I realized that that was my first taste on it doesn't work to do it in scale, because scale is weird. And like, even these Dutch doors, like the behind the scenes info is these doors don't fit. And these were my 1/32 scale Dutch doors, and I put them on here and they don't fit. Like I had to make another frame for them to go in there. And I was like, okay, so what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need people to send me measurements of their doorway, like on their barn. And then I can cut them a Dutch door that will fit like in there. And it just,
your brain went into like engineer.
Yeah. And I'm not, like, I keep saying I'm not one of those logical engineer people, but apparently I am, because I guess my biggest concern is I don't want to like make this and send it to somebody and have them be like, none of my horses fit, you know? But an idea that I came up with when I was at Briar West, I was in the swap meet at Briar West, and I had some of my conceptual stuff with me. And just spur of the moment, I talked to a couple people and I said, you know what I might do is I might get to the point where I want product testers, like in the hobby, and say, hey, can I send you something and you can like kind of like review it or like give me your thoughts on it. And so for me, I feel like that would take away the pressure of like, I don't want to sell something that's not going to like work for somebody. So a couple people I mentioned that to, they were super excited. They were like, "Oh yeah." So I feel like that's one of the things that's moving a little closer blip on the radar is like I might reach out soon and say, "Hey," because another thing that I make are those holders for the stablemates.
Mm-hmm.
Please hold.
Please hold. Do, do, do,
Do,
do,
do, do, do. Jeez.
Nice.
It's
like a super stall that they can't
yes.
get out of.
And so the quick story behind these is I started making them. This one's made out of wood, laser cut, but I started making them in Japan out of cardboard because Japan is the land of earthquakes.
Oh yeah.
And I was horrified when I got there and I realized, oh crap! At any moment, all my horses could take a header off the shelf. And so I started making these racks out of like cardboard, so each horse had its own little stall, and they could. Sorry, I hope I didn't scare anybody.
Little bits of felt or like mole skin on the edges.
Yes, that is the next iteration. Like first I was making them out of cardboard, and then I started making them out of wood. Next they're going to be lined with felt.
Yeah.
What I really want to do is I want to make a rack that holds a few of these and has like a handle and a lid, and people can take it to a show.
That's exactly where my brain was going
like
with it.
Open it up, and then I was talking to Brent about the engineering part of it, and he's like, I could do that. So I think if we can get our crazy minds together, he and I, we're gonna just do some crazy stuff, but good stuff. But I told him, I said, wouldn't it be cool if you sat this stack of racks down, opened it up, and then could like rock it back to where they're like tiered, you know,
like a tackle box kind of thing.
Yeah. And then you grab out your horses and put them in their classes, and then when you're done, you put them in there and close it up and latch it, and off you go.
And then you take it home, pull the lid off, and slide it on your shelf.
Yeah. And it's like a transport display, magical. So
I love the way your brain works. That's awesome.
I just have so many cool things, and it's fun. But yeah, I'm really getting to the point where I'm stuck on some of this stuff, and I just want to get them out in the world and kind of get some like feedback.
We have a couple people in the chat that are volunteering as tribute for testing.
Awesome.
Yes. And then apparently scale's not allowed to exist anymore. We're only going by Rayvin head scale.
Okay. So you gotta hold it up to your head so they know.
Yeah. Okay, Bobby, ship it to me and I will measure it by my head. Because measuring with the measurement device is for chumps.
Yes. But yeah, I feel like, well, I know that I tend to overthink and I get out in the weeds and I've got these ideas, and I think a lot of the things that I worry about, maybe people don't even, maybe it's not a thing.
There's probably 90% of the things that you're worrying about that on this like 80-20 scale, they don't make the cut.
But I feel like I try to remind myself of that sometimes, and I feel like that, to me, it feels like that's an artist thing too, is like we're too close to our work. So we see it and we're like, it's messed up here and here and here. And then most other people are going to look at me like, that's amazing. And
then if you look at like the real world in general, most people or most companies are releasing products at like 70-80% maybe. And they're like out in the world. And then they'll fix things as they need to and be like, oh, this is version 2.
Yeah.
Or like, now that's limited edition and this is the new one. But
yeah,
here, I'll pull up your Etsy so everybody can see the page.
Oh, yes.
Fun to studio with the ponies.
My little stall signs too. Those are really popular.
Yeah, they're so cute. Oh, it won't let me click and show you.
I do little engraved stall signs where people can send me like the name and
so cute. Yeah.
Yeah, those have been pretty popular, and that's one thing that I was proud of myself for pushing through getting stuck, because I have thousands of fonts and I can put anything on there anybody wants, and I could do it any color anybody wants, and I'm like, just simplify it. Give people like 10 options for a little picture icon, 10 options for font. There's 2 color options, which are black or gold for the background. And then I think I have a note in there that if somebody wants one completely custom, if they want a purple one with like a hippo on it, like I could do it. Like completely random.
You're like,
Because I was
send me
like-
the interesting projects.
Because I'm like, if I give people the option to do anything, like it's paralyzing, you know.
And
So
then there's saddle pads and some of your painted stuff.
yeah,
Bridal for Fireheart.
yes,
I love poppies.
yeah. It's kind of an eclectic collection, sampling of different things that I do.
Edgies. These are so cute.
Oh yeah, the micro mini shelves.
Little micro mini shelves. Somebody in the chat saying, Amy, the collective gasp from everybody as you were shaking the little container, and they're going, ding, 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 ding.
Hey, it's better than them falling off the shelf and breaking legs and ears. No, that was the earthquake simulator.
Earthquake simulator. If we can do it this way, then we can take them to shows with handles. So we have to test.
I like one thing I found, and I don't know if this is common too, but I found as like an artist or creative type person, I'm way less worried about like my horses getting damaged.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I mean,
I'll fix it or I'll body it or I'll.
well, exactly. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be like that. I mean, there are some that I'm careful with, but overall, I'm just like, like you said, I'll fix it, or it'll be a body, or like I'm not like a big OF. I keep saying I'm not an OF collector, and then I keep buying them, so I don't even know. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. Sorry, everybody. You mean scare you.
It's just like, this just is how it is. Let's see.
Well, it's like a while back. I don't know if you remember. There was a thing where everybody was piling their horses, like
yes,
the piles.
Like
and I still remember being so upset because that was during the move to Japan, and most of my collection was literally on a container ship out in the middle of the ocean somewhere. And I'm like, I can't do the piles.
You're like, I want to stack my ponies, damn it.
I can't do the piles, and all my horses are on a ship somewhere in the
And
Pacific
some people were
Ocean.
doing it with like crazy expensive stuff. And obviously you're very carefully
Yeah,
stacking
I mean,
things,
yeah.
but
I think they're tougher than some people give them credit for, but yeah, I thought it was kind of funny. It was fun. You know.
And I think at the end of the day, a reminder that they're just plastic horses is also very good. We need that every once in a while, as much as people get super serious. It's like that humbling thing of like, when you boil it down, do we need to be having these big freakouts, or can it just be like fun and enjoyable? Because I think that's the struggle right now a lot of people are having, is it's no longer fun. When there's so much crazy and so much intensity and so much drama and everything's so expensive. It's like, I just want, like, the reason why I came to the hobby was for fun and escaping reality and learning and doing and like all the good stuff. And then you get like freight trained with all the crap.
Yeah. Well, that's like that moment. I keep going back to that moment when I was just sitting here and I was so upset and I was like, to the fire pit. But I was just upset because for me, my studio, messy as it is, and like, wow, has always been my sanctuary. Like, that's the word that I've always used. It's like my sanctuary, and it's almost like that default, you know, no bad vibes allowed, like, you know. And so the fact that all that stuff crept in here and I'm sitting here and I'm having those feelings, and I think that's what led to my like just defiance that I found. It was like, no, I'm not
You shit where I play. This is where I play.
I'm not gonna bring that in here. Like, this is my sanctuary, and it's where I have fun, and I'm not gonna sit here and wonder if I'm allowed to have fun, if I'm good enough to have fun. And I was just like, screw that.
And that's a lot of our internalized voices versus the reality of it, because nobody can make you feel anything.
Yep.
It all comes from what you're allowing in your own boundaries and stuff. And I know a lot of us struggle with boundaries. I do. It's not easy to set them, especially when we're kind of like sensitive people. And that seems like a cross hobby thing.
Yeah.
And you get somebody that you set a boundary and then they're upset. And you're like, well, I don't want to upset you. I'd rather be uncomfortable and gross inside than upset somebody else. But it's these boundaries that teach other people how to interact with us.
Yeah.
And how we want to exist. So if you are shitting where I play, then I have to say, you don't poop here. Go over there.
This
You
is a
can go
not
anywhere
pooping
else.
zone.
Not in my studio. Like my happy place, don't poop
Yeah.
here. And it's
Well,
the like interacting thing too that I talk about, or it's the wolf you feed. If you're feeding into
yeah.
the insanity of it and you're gossiping and you're sharing drama and all this stuff, it's like you can do that, but you're actually feeding into that same stuff
Mhm.
and making it breed. Or even if you're giving it attention, if somebody's like, oh, and you're like, oh, look at that person, you're actually feeding into that and
Yeah.
giving more energy and more power to that rather than going, oh, Namo Pine was happening. Look at all these awesome people. I'm going to go comment. So instead of being like, oh, look at that person being all dramatic, it's like,
Yeah.
I can now go and comment on 10 baby artists doing stuff and be like, you're awesome, that's great, and put that energy into something else that's good
Yeah.
and breed more of that. And it's very hard, don't get me wrong. Like I struggle with that myself because it's so easy to get sucked into it and be like, what?
Well, yeah, it's almost like hitting a tipping point with a lot of things, because when I had that moment when I was sitting here like in the lowest low or whatever, there was other things in my personal life that were going on, like friend drama. Just friend drama, just people that I was friends with that just, I don't know what happened, everybody's going crazy. And I'm pretty new to the whole boundary setting thing. I've always kind of been like I don't want to rock the boat thing. And so I'm kind of learning how to set boundaries, and I'm learning how to say, like, that's not okay. For someone else and for myself, like you said. I mean, a lot of it is internal, and I've just lately I've just spent a lot of time just looking at myself, like, okay, why am I feeling like this? And when I was having the conflicted hobby feelings, a couple people were like, whose ass do we have to kick? Like, who did what? And I'm like, it's not even that. It's, I really was like, I need to find out if this is healthy for me with what I'm going through and how I'm taking things and internalizing things. And it's like, I'm not mad at anyone. I'm mad at myself, and, yeah, so it's just growth. It's all growth, I guess. And it's weird and it's ugly, but,
Yeah.
it's good. It's good.
Well, and it's funny because I've had that experience too. And I think people are well-meaning because they want to be like, oh, is somebody being mean? Like, let me jump in there. And if you've ever heard of the codependent triangle, there's the rescuer, persecutor, and victim. And
I
it's
haven't heard
really, so it's called the Cartman's triangle. And
Okay.
you bounce between the roles. And it's a very common thing in society. So that's somebody coming in wanting to be the rescuer, seeing you as the victim.
Yeah.
But then it gets really kind of messy and gross because then you end up with people that are like, well, I tried to help you, and then they're mad at you because they tried to help you, but they didn't help you in the way you wanted to be helped.
Okay.
And then it becomes the persecutor, and then you're like not, or they give you advice and then they're like, you're not following my advice, because then that's persecutor too. And it's very easy to slip into, and it can be very exciting in that moment to jump between the roles. So somebody jumping in there and being like, who do I have to beat up, right? Or like I've made posts in the past and people are like, you need to tell me all the like messy details behind it. And it's like, sometimes posts can be a professional, here's a statement that needs to happen, and that's all that is going to happen.
Yeah.
Like there's obviously stuff in the background, but we don't need to necessarily get into it.
Yeah.
And people just want to be in the fight and they want to know all the details. And it's like, no, we don't need to feed these beasts. It's not good. And they mean well by wanting to help, but it's like, it's not helpful because a lot of times it's that internal boundary of, I should have set boundaries with somebody, or I've let this go on for too long and I need to say something, or, I need to set boundaries with myself and say, I'm not going to be treated this way. And we're going to just do a different thing. Like there's so many different ways, and most of them come from internal. So it's not like somebody can jump in your head and punch those voices. Doesn't work.
I know I think that's what I told somebody was like, who hurt you? And I'm like, me.
They're like, I can come punch you.
It was that type of thing. It was just like, oh, what I'm saying is my biggest problem is me. So I'm trying to figure out what to do about that. Like,
Yeah, and it's hard because we get sucked into stuff and then we feel left out, and there's FOMO, and there's all these heavy emotions that we have to learn how to navigate. Because
Mm-hmm.
even if somebody's doing something with a group of friends and you're not invited to it, then it's hard not to feel left out, and it's
Yeah.
hard not to be like with the there's been events that have happened in the hobby, and certain people are invited and certain people aren't, and then everybody feels that didn't get invited feels left out. And even
Yeah.
some of the people that did get invited that didn't realize that other people weren't are like, you weren't, or like what's going
Yeah.
on here? And it's
Yeah.
hard because there's no way, well, it's harder to include everybody,
Yeah.
and it's not anything we can control. So it's
Yeah.
going back to that idea of, I can control me and how I react and what I
Mm-hmm.
do, but I can't control what other people do or say, or events they're having, or any of this ephemeral, like if they're lying or if they're spreading bullshit. Like, you
Yeah.
can't control any of that.
Yep.
And that's been a really hard thing to come to terms with for me in the last couple of years, is like, the truth doesn't necessarily 100% matter
Yeah.
in some senses, because people don't care. They'll believe what they want to believe.
Yep.
So I think over time, integrity and being a person that operates the same way consistently going forward is the only thing you can really do. Because I can get up and stand on a big friggin' platform and yell all I want, but it's just going to cause more fighting, and it's to what end, right? So
Yeah.
blah.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting journey. I guess that's the best way to summarize it. But yeah, I feel like I'm in a pretty decent place right now. I'm just gonna make things and I'm gonna post things, and um, I'm just working on, like I said before, caring less, if that makes sense. Like I'm still gonna do things, but I'm not gonna try to be involved. I'm not gonna just not gonna worry about it. Just gonna make what I want to make and try to deal with the insanity going on up here and have fun. And I really love how you are about positivity. And yeah, that's just, we need a lot more of that.
I think so too. Thank you.
Yes.
It's just like, I kind of touched on it before, but I didn't dive into it. When I got in the hobby, it saved me from a lot of sketchy stuff
Mm-hmm.
in the outside world and in my own head.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the why that keeps me here doing what I'm doing is that this might help somebody else in the way the hobby helped me.
Yeah.
And if I'm not going to jump in and fight the battles to keep places in the hobby positive and happy and stand up against whoever I need to stand up against, then who's going to do it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that there's been a lot of synchronicity and stuff in my life that's told me that there's certain things that are right, and there's certain places I need to be in, there's certain things I need to be doing, and it seems like the right sculptures come out at the right time
Mm-hmm.
to resonate with people, and all these things are what tell me that I need to be here. And also, if I wasn't doing this and I was working at Starbucks, I would be drawing little freaking latte ponies.
Right.
And it's like, if I get bored in this one area, I can go do something else, because a hobby is this beautiful a la carte. I can pick whatever I want. Maybe I'll go do dolls and be like, screw the horses for a while and do something different just to get my head out of it.
Yeah.
But I think reconnecting with the why, and for me, there's been that focus lately of trying to help people connect with why, what got you here?
Mm-hmm.
What do you love about it? Don't
Yeah.
talk about the negativity and what you hate and that people are pooping in your play area.
Yeah.
Close the door.
Run them out.
You can't get in your house and poop where you play if you
Get out of
close
here.
the door.
Go poop somewhere else.
And all the bullies in the world can come out of the woodwork and try and light you on fire all they want, but if you don't pay attention to it and you don't feed into it,
Mm-hmm.
does it exist?
Yeah.
Like, in their own heads, sure. In their own play places, sure. But then they're pooping where they play. So let them do that.
Yep.
Because that can only last for so long, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so crazy.
Yeah.
I think we have the ability to change the momentum of it. I think it's just really hard to, like, if there's a big dumpster on fire, it's hard not to see the dumpster on fire and go, oh no.
Should we be worried about that?
But it's not our dumpster. We don't have control over the fire department. That's
Yeah.
their thing. We
Not
can
my
just,
dumpster, not my fire. No.
yeah, not my dumpster, not my fire.
Sometimes it is your dumpster and it is your fire, but yeah.
Yeah, my dumpster's over here. It's not on fire. We're good. But it's like creating that. What Amy just said, my brother always tells me, don't let anyone poop in your Cheerios. Exactly. And we have that whole and total control over our own everything.
Yeah.
And if you're letting somebody else upset you, you're letting them do it. You're letting them have that effect on you. And it may feel like you don't have control in that moment, but ultimately you do. And you can get there. It's just really hard. Like seeing people say stuff, it's hard not to let it like weasel into your brain and let it affect you. Or seeing somebody come out with something amazing, reframing that from, oh my God, I'm not good. I'm never going to be that good. This is horrible. I should just quit. Reframing it to, oh my God, how did they do that? I love it. I'm going to support them and be positive. And then I'm going to work to that. Because you don't understand the tens of thousands of hours that went into it, and the tears and the swearing and the wanting to give up. And their work is going to be different than yours too. Like my work is never going to look like any other sculptors out there.
Yeah.
It's always going to have my own flavor to it, just like everybody's will.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard because we see the little flaws in ours and everybody sees the awesome. And then we see the awesome in everybody else's. But that's why we have community to support each other and be like, that's amazing. Like, keep doing that. Or this is working and do more of that. Or maybe that didn't work. So do something like this.
There's like little nuggets of wisdom that I feel like I've picked up everywhere. And one of them was my granddad, because I was kind of raised by my grandparents. And my granddad was pretty much like my dad. And he just supported everything I wanted to do. And I was getting into painting and customizing and doing all that when I was in the hobby before. And he actually bought me a copy of Color Formulas and Techniques from Carol Williams, nice. And bought me like the book and the cards and everything back in the day when it was like $30 or whatever. And it was written for oil painting, and I've always painted in acrylics, but it just took my work like leaps and bounds. I just read it and I just tried to apply things. But I would show him horses that I did, and every time I showed him a horse that I painted, sculpted, whatever, he was like, that's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. He would just go on and on about it. And I would always go, yeah, but it's kind of rough right there. And the eye is weird. And, the hoof, that line. And he goes, and he would say, I didn't see any of that. And he told me an artist is their worst critic. And I mean, it's been forever since he had told me that. And I still think about that sometimes. I think about, he was just so supportive and wonderful and just thought everything that I made was amazing. And yeah, I think that's, I try to remember that. And I try to remember, like, I can look at everything I've made and be like, yeah, look, you can see like a little tiny bit of glue there, like, or whatever. But
well, there's a bit to both. Like, you want to be able to see where you need to improve, but also be able to kind of let that go enough to be able to move on to the next piece, but also being able to accept that other people see wonderful things in it, and that is the like yin yang balance of like, I want to keep going, but I want to keep improving, and being kind of sensitive to both. It's that gray area. There's no black and white. And it's hard to find that balance, because you can have toxic positivity and be like, why am I not making $10 million at this? Because I'm amazing. And you're like, okay, you're not maybe where you would think you are. Because there's that end of the spectrum too, if you go black and white. Or you're like, I'm horrible. This is horrible. It doesn't matter how good I am. I still will never not see the flaws in it. And then you just don't do anything at all. So there's that middle space of bouncing kind of back and forth between the two of like, I need to improve, but don't be so hard on myself, and other people like it. Like that endless, like, and I wish it was just clearer and nicer, but it's messy and it's life.
Yeah, it definitely is.
But I think community does help with that, because
I was thinking when I dusted off Honk here, because he's been like buried in the corner, and I'm like, come on, buddy. I was getting him out and I was looking him over and I was like, he doesn't look that bad. But it's been so long since I've looked at him, and I think that's another thing too is just taking a break sometimes really helps. Like,
Yeah.
It would have been nice if I didn't take like a 2-year break, but
it's the weird COVID time where nothing for the last 5 years counts as time.
Because I know that's another thing I'll do is if I'm just really like ready to throw something out the window, I'm like, put it away.
Yeah.
Take a break.
Well, and that's nice to be able to step away from it. And even if you love it, sometimes it clears the barn blindness a little bit. And then if you're taking critiques from people, maybe don't just put it out to the generic internet. Go to people that you value the opinion of and trust, and actually ask for critique. Because I find there's a lot of people that will send stuff, and then it's like you have to kind of ask if you want to be critiqued, because it's not something that somebody can just impress upon you very easily.
Yeah.
Because it's, if you're not asking for it, then you're not willing to receive it. And it's like this thing. Because I find people have a hard time asking for it. It's like, can you just look at this? It's like, okay, you need to like ask the thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn, and there's always going to be those phases of like different levels. Like, oh, now I understand this. And it's funny to watch that in people's work, because you'll see them hyperfixate on certain things. It's like, oh, eyeballs. And then the eyeballs start getting like big. And then it's like, oh, these noses and this little muscle here. And then you always see that muscle defined. And it's like, your thing right now. It's kind of fun because it's the artist in the artwork at that point that you're kind of following along with.
Yeah, I really still want to do more with sculpting. I feel like that's the real weakness for me. And also the intimidating part, but
leaping off the cliff with the originals is hard.
Yeah, it's going great. Things are great here. How are you?
Yeah, sometimes medallions are a nice place to start because they're a little less intimidating, but the relief is sometimes more challenging. So it depends on people's brains and what they're good at. And it is a little easier to have something underneath because you're like, oh, these are the generic places where all the things go. And your brain sees that as like, I have training wheels, I can go fast. Whereas the training wheels come off, you're like, I'm going to fall and die. This is not good.
Yes, definitely.
Too funny. All right. Well, we went into a lot of like woo-woo-y.
I know.
Mental healthy places, but I really liked it. I hope.
I did too. I think that kind of stuff is important, and I think like mental health in general is almost. I feel like it's getting better, but I feel like for a long time, and maybe even still, sometimes it's kind of a taboo topic. Like, don't talk about it. Don't talk about not being okay. Like everything's supposed to be great. I'm great.
Everything is
so it's like, I mean, you don't want to talk about that stuff all the time. Like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, don't bring everybody down. But like, it's important, I feel like, for people to know that it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
It's like
and that most of us are in that same position 98% of the time, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the people, if you're sitting there and you're going, I have this imposter syndrome, it does not necessarily get better.
Yeah.
Like, people are like, oh, Rayvin, there's no way. Like, you just poop like Bobby. You're like, oh, you touched the eyeball and it's an eyeball. It's like, yeah, but then I would critique the eyeball and I'd rip the eyeball off and I'd do it 20 more times. And like, I'm feeling all the same feelings that everybody else is. And we've all been there at some level. And you can see other artists in the hobby and otherwise struggling with it too, where it's like, they want to create things and they don't create the things. And then they like focus on redoing the things. And it's a lot. And you can take the positivity thing, and I try and make sure like you can't just do the toxic positivity thing where it's all fluffy rainbows all the time.
Yeah.
There's this other component to it where it's like, you can take the stuff you're getting from life and take that hand and make the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
While not being toxically positive, like there is nothing bad, everything is fine, because then you just go at some point and everything explodes or implodes generally.
Yeah.
And it's again that fine balance between the extremes and between those black and whites, where it's like, I struggle with mental health, I struggle with depression, I have the ADHD thing, probably spectrum. Like, I did a autism test with a friend, and it came out. She was like, "I'm really high," and I came out higher, and I'm like, "Well, then, that's awkward. That might explain a couple things."
Yeah.
But I was also a really badly socialized puppy when I was little, and there's that too. So,
right?
and I
That's
think
hilarious.
we're all like that, where we
Yeah.
all have our stuff, and we gravitate towards horses because they're healing, and the hobby is lovely, and like, it just does something magic for all of us. And it's that middle ground of finding the middle bit where we're helping each other because we all have different experiences to help each other through this mess, because we're all going through the same stuff. And sometimes it's just nice to hear other people at different levels and doing different things saying, "Yeah, me too."
Yep.
Like, I feel that. I've been there.
Yeah.
And then it's nice if we have people that are in different places at different times, so that we're not all on like the pit of despair at the same time.
I know.
But yeah, it is interesting. But I think we'll get there. I think the community will get there. And I'm proud of you for like saying fluff you and getting back into it.
Like I said, I've got to give some credit to Falling in Reverse at the moment, Ronnie Radke. Thanks a lot, man.
Big shout out to the music that helped us in our lives.
I'm just really embracing that attitude right now, and I'm just loving it. And it's what I need. The universe or whoever brought it into my life, and yeah, it's good.
The right things at the right times.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I have your website link here. I posted that in the chat. I posted Etsy in the chat. Did you want to say anything else to everybody? Before you take off?
Gosh, I feel like I've been talking forever. Talking too much. Jeez, shut up, get out of here now.
It's only been 2 hours. It's fine.
Yeah, just I guess if anybody wants to follow me or hook up, I'm everywhere. Horse Tinder Studio. I've got website, Etsy, Facebook, YouTube, Blogger, Instagram. I'm sporadically active on like everything. Got the band going on. Oh, completely random off topic. I'm going to be launching a video game streaming persona. I was an Old West reenactor, gunfighter many years ago. I was an outlaw character. Got to run around with a 6-shooter and you stole my horse and all that kind of fun stuff. And I'm going to kind of morph that into a video game streaming thing. And I've decided that I'm going to launch that on my birthday.
Oh.
September 19th, which is Talk Like a Pirate Day, which is I have the coolest birthday ever.
That is awesome. So that's next, not this Thursday, but the following Thursday.
Yeah. I think I'm going to set up a schedule, like maybe Thursday nights and Sundays streaming, Sunday evening or Sunday something like that, and just see how that goes. I like playing games. I like, obviously, talking, telling stories, whatever. And so Brent came up with this idea. You used to be a gunfighter. Why don't you put on one of your outfits and play like Red Dead Redemption or something and tell your stories of being a gunfighter in Arizona? And I'm like, you know what? This could be fun. So yeah, I decided, my birthday's coming up. Why not just do something crazy and fun? And so
that's cool.
I've got a separate like YouTube channel set up for that, and probably going to be trying to do some test streams and play with settings and stuff because I don't know how to do any of this. So Brent is my tech guy, and he was just showing me earlier today how to you could set up your microphone and this little thing and adjust your levels, and I'm like, oh man, I'm in trouble. But we'll figure it out. It'll be fun. So yeah, that's another thing I'll be doing.
I love this woman of many talents and interests.
Singing in the rock band, shooting bows and arrows off my horse, just everyday stuff.
All the normal things that people do.
Everybody does this stuff, right? I mean, we all have hobbies, so. We
have some of the coolest, most interesting people in the hobby because we all come from different places, and there's that commonality of the common interest that all kind of connects us, but so cool. It's very neat.
But yeah, thanks so
Alrighty.
much for having me. This was fun. And
Yeah, you're very welcome. Everybody was all excited in the chat. They're saying bye and happy birthday. And
yeah,
we're very excited.
thanks, guys.
Cool. All right. Well, I will let Bobby wander off to do Bobby things and create
So
all
many
the
Bobby things.
so many Bobby things. Say hi to Bo for us, your pony.
All right, I will.
Cool. And then I'm going to show some things to everybody because I said
Bye,
I would do peeks.
everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Bobby's awesome. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Bobby is an amazing and so interesting. I just, yeah. The more that I found out about her over the last while, it's been so fun to have her as a friend and to have her down and to meet her and to get to know her and to see all the things that she's doing and to see her overcoming some of the things and the obstacles that have been put in her way. And this is how we keep carrying on as we inspire each other. So I will show you guys, because I said there's going to be peaks and I left them to 2 hours and 5 minutes in. You guys are going to like come to my house with pitchforks. Let me take this off for now. All right. Let us do this one. So I can show this one because it's not a like total spoiler, but I've been starting to paint on some things. And there are purple tones in this rise, and the intent is to have him done for the sale in September 21st and 22nd. There's lots of Perlex, lots of shiny, and then I don't know if you can see it. There's tons of sparkle in his hair that is not showing up at all. But I'm going to do him as a dark unicorn and shade him out. But this kind of gives you some ideas for possibilities for him. Ta-da! He looks really cool in a dark unicorn color. So excited. I need like 500 colors. It's so bad. But it's been fun to kind of get into painting, and it's kind of a shame that this isn't showing up as to how sparkly it is. But it is very sparkly. And the nice thing with him is he stands up. Then I wanted to show you the things. So let's do 2 peaks. This one, if you don't want the last Medallion Club medallion to be spoiled for you, don't look and maybe leave or plug your ears for the next second. But this guy will also be available. Luke. Isn't he cute in Belgian? This camera's not going to pick up on the color very well, and I'm going to drop him. But done up in your blonde Belgian color, this is Moose. He's very cute. He's already got a little eyeball. There's a peeper in there. There we go. And I'll get better pictures, obviously. It's hard with the lighting for the stream to get it looking really good. And these lighter colors are really challenging. It's been a while since I've done them. He does have dapples, which is kind of cool. It's been nice to paint again a little bit. I made him and I couldn't help myself. I'm like, gotta do the painting things. Like, he needs to be a Belgian because I had tons of reference photos from the Stampede when I was working on him. And I just couldn't not paint one. So someone will get an artist proof in the sale. So that's still scheduled for the 21st and 22nd. I'll have more peaks to show you over the next little while. I have micros to show you. I have another little resin to show you. We are doing all the casting of these guys, and they're turning out really nice. There might be an artist proof of that in the mix at some point. We'll see. But I'm going to try and space some stuff out afterwards. I'm not going to totally barrage you, but I wanted to have some things that I'd done that is just different than resin releases. So, there's all the fun stuff. There's so many things I want to show you that I'm not allowed to show you. It's the hardest part of my job is keeping of the secrets. So that's a moose, and I'm very excited. Hopefully you guys like it too. Amy's like, can we come to your house with paintbrushes instead? Yes! We can have a giant painting party or sculpting party or just hanging out and talking ponies party. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, so it's really fun to see the medallions in color because I think for me as the sculptor, I can kind of envision all the colors in my own non-seeing things way, which is maybe why I can see it. Like I can feel the colors on ours. But it's harder to picture it until you see it sometimes. And you can always add feather to them and make them a different draft breed. You could do them up in show raffia and ribbons and stuff if you wanted to, and braids. There's so many different options for customizing medallions, and I thoroughly, thoroughly encourage them. Do them up as a knight's horse in armor, a battle corn. I think it's gonna be cool. So I like the potentials, and I want to see more customized medallions out there. So fun. I think it's like a niche market that we don't see as much as we should, is all the customizing stuff. And in a world of a whole bunch of 3D prints and a whole bunch of stuff, I think it's the one of a kind things that are going to start to really shine kind of going forward, but we'll see how it goes. Is his nickname Sam Winchester? I don't get the reference, Katie. Maybe it's because I'm Canadian. I don't know. Gnocchi is delicious. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Before I let you guys go into the ether, I did want to show you something that I got that I squeed over a little bit. I, in my random wanderings as a human being, ended up in art school for graphic design for 1 year because I tried to take proper functional art and do graphic design instead of doing fine art, which is what I really wanted to do. And it's funny because I was trying to appease my parents when they didn't support any of it anyway. My dad basically disowned me over going to art school. So didn't matter that I took practical art and appeased somebody else because it didn't do me any good and it didn't do them any good. So it goes back to our whole conversation with Bobby of like, just do what you are called to do and do things for you instead of doing things for other people, because then it just sucks in multiple directions. But I took graphic design because I was like, I do like illustration and I do like scientific illustration. And so I found a whole bunch of washi tape that is like old Da Vinci style, notebooky, people making those notes in their explorers journals of like drawing all the new plants from the new world. That stuff just hits a different note inside of my being. So I get really excited. And I know you guys are like, tell me about all the other things that you do, not just the ponies, but like all the little writings. And none of it makes sense because it's like it's washi tape from China that they've just mashed words together. So most of it doesn't make sense, but it looks pretty. And it gives me the feels, which is the important part. But it's got like, this one's very, oh no, this one is very Da Vinci with all of its red, kind of sepia, burnt umbery writing color, and then all the handwriting. This one has music notes on it. I don't know. It gets me excited. And I'm like, ah, fuck. Oh, I exploded that everywhere. Should just take it out instead of trying to turn it like a ding dong. Like a wax seal. Make art. It's a sign, everybody. Okay, on that note, I have thrown washi tape everywhere. I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you again to Bobby for coming and hanging out and chatting about all the crazy stuff that probably wasn't the intent when you joined in. Check out her Etsy and her website. I posted that in the chat and I posted it on the screen. Again, if you're coming at the very end and you're like, what just happened? How is this 2 hours and 13 minutes long? You can always scrub through on your timeline. And then if you see something interesting or a lot of flailing, that's usually an indicator to stop and watch the thing. So yeah, hopefully you guys keep enjoying these. If you want to see more guest appearances about us talking about hobby and life and mental health and whatever pony stuff, let me know because I will try and do more of it. I think it's kind of fun. And yeah, it's better than feeding trolls. Alrighty. Well, you guys are all awesome. To the like 20 of you that stuck it out to the very end, you are the best. I greatly appreciate all of you, and I will have some more goodies to show off next Sunday. I don't know yet if it's going to be a later stream. It might be a little later than the 10:30. If the 1 o'clock works, let me know in the chat. If this is way too late, let me know in the chat. I need your feedback to know if this is working or it's not. So yeah. Alrighty, on that note, I greatly appreciate all of you. I hope you have an awesome rest of your weekend and rest of your day. I will see you next Sunday, and I will have more peaks because I have tons of things to share. Oh, I can't wait. Okay, don't feed the trolls. Be awesome, but don't like berate yourself and say you have to be toxically positive all the time. Don't go there. That's not good. We need to respect our own emotions and our feelings, but also try and make the best of what we have because we have certain cards and ingredients in life, and we can do all the cool things. Alrighty, I will see you guys next time. Love ya.